Keely loved her figure, bragging about being considered chunky. In fact, she was passionate about her health and made sure to stay in shape by going to the gym and eating the right foods. This is why in 2014 she couldn't understand why she was putting on so much weight. Instead of automatically imagining the worst, Keely shoved her weight off and just continued to work hard. Despite her best efforts, she continued to grow. I was exercising and eating healthy, but slowly gained weight. She climbed so slowly that I didn't know something was wrong. I thought to put wood. Besides her growing belly, Keely didn't feel sick. She was in no pain, and her energy remained the same, which made her wonder if she still had a large stomach. Keely decided to ignore her weight gain, but tried to solve the mystery of the extra pounds. Soon enough, she noticed that she was only gaining weight in her lower abdomen. Over the months, her stomach started to harden and become extremely tender to the touch. Keely had hoped that this question would go away on its own. Unfortunately, this was not the case. Keely was starting to worry about skipping 8 clothing sizes, but still refused to go to the doctors because she was afraid of them. Growing up with my dad as a doctor, I'd become a bit of a medical coward, so seeing the GP was not my first option, Keely said. As the number on the scale continues to rise rapidly, Keely felt that there was only one possible explanation for all of this. Her weight gain, growing figure, swollen stomach, and 10 years of dating her partner Jamie all seemed to add to her pregnancy. Keely and Jamie weren't trying to have a child, which worried them about the outcome. But as Keely grew bigger over the days, it became clear that she could be with her child. This is why Keely and her partner were surprised when their first test came back negative. Thinking it was a false negative and seeing no other explanation, Keely tried another pregnancy test, only to have it be negative again. Keely ran out of excuses and decided it was time to face her fears. Although she was scared, she knew she couldn't wait to see the doctors any longer. Even though when she finally got there, she was immediately fired and diagnosed as just fat. She was starting to speculate, is there nothing else she can do? Keely knew something was wrong with her body, but since the doctors didn't think about it and it didn't affect her daily life, she continued to ignore it. But was it impossible for her to be pregnant? Here's where things get weird. If Keely was pregnant, the huge tummy problems would have been resolved after giving birth, but her belly continued to grow for months and months. After 2 years, her stomach continued to grow, until one day at work, she passed out. The doctor's response was maddening. Keely immediately returned to the doctor, where they classified her stress deaths. It was a tough time at work, and when I passed out, my GP made me stressful, she said. With no choice but to trust the doctor's prognosis, Keely continued with her daily life, even though this stomach felt hard to the touch. Although Keely tried to ignore her ever larger stomach, more and more people began to take notice. Continuing to increase in width, many believed her to be pregnant and questioned her frequently, leaving her to respond that, according to the doctor, she was simply overweight. Everyone would have thought I was gone 9 months. It was not the first time that I was mistaken for a future mother, and it would certainly not be the last time. People had seen me walking around and carrying this bump, and I was asked a few times when I should have been, she said, embarrassed by how far I had come. It didn't help when she had to shop in the maternity ward. I remember trying to shop for clothes in December 2016 and nothing would fit. I had skin and bones at the top, then this huge mass and normal legs. The only thing that was going to fit was maternity clothes. And while Keely did her best to get back to her usual routine, that proved impossible when she passed out for the second time. This time around, during her visit, her doctor claimed her fatigue was due to her acne medication, which she had stopped taking 6 months previously. It was about time she insisted that something was wrong, and it wasn't stress, medication, or being fat. Look at me, anyone would have thought I was gone for 9 months, Keely said, but with the negative pregnancy results, it was too strange. When she went to her doctor and showed him her stomach, he still thought she was pregnant and told her to do another ultrasound. It was then that she finally understood what was wrong with her body. Sick of being ignored and desperate for answers, Keely pointed her huge stomach and asked, could this have something to do with it? In response, the doctor performed a pregnancy test. When it turned negative again, they switched to an ultrasound. As a radiologist walking along her massive stomach, Keely could tell her face that something was wrong. I saw his eyes widen in horror, but the screen was blank. The look on his face said it all. But when she said to find a consultant, I started to panic. Jamie did his best to reassure me, but I felt paralyzed with fear. Nothing could prepare them for what was to come. Keely had never had a history of medical problems. In reality, Keely and Jamie were both panicked, but neither of them could have predicted what would happen next. Since the screen was blank, the doctor couldn't tell what was in Keely's stomach, but it also meant that her life was probably in danger. She could have had a tumor or a cyst, and to find out she had to have a CAT scan. Everyone knew that this woman was certainly not pregnant. The doctor returned and informed Keely that her partner in the black lump on the screen was not a tumor but a cyst. Keely was rushed to the emergency room, where it was revealed that a 10-inch thick sac fluid was attached to her stomach, which explains her weight gain. Her life was in danger. Due to the size of the cyst and Keely's general health, the doctors had to act quickly. Keely was immediately referred to a high-risk obstetrics consultant, and a month later sat down to discuss her options. "I'll never forget how shocked she looked when the consultants examined me," Keely said. "He said I had a large ovarian mass, and the only option was surgery. He couldn't tell exactly what I was or how tall I was." Neither Keely nor the doctor expected to see how huge this cyst was. "He warned me that there could be more than one, and they could be attached to other organs," the woman said. Although Keely knew that surgery was the only option available, she still felt like she was giving up on her life, especially since the condition of her cyst and its impact on her body was still a mystery. She couldn't help feeling the worst. After 4 weeks of consultation, during which her stomach grew another 5 inches, Keely was admitted for surgery. She was scared, but knew it was the only way to get a normal life back. Doctors told her that the operation was to take about 90 minutes, but the hours passed. A procedure that the doctor predicted would take an hour ended up being a 5-hour operation. Although long, the doctors had managed to remove the cyst. It was pretty huge, and when they weighed it, everyone was lost. The cyst was found to weigh 60 pounds, which equates to the weight of about 7 babies. It was as if she was carrying a pregnancy of septuplets. When she woke up, the hospital staff were all around her, showing her pictures. At first, Keely was taken aback by the fact that the hospital staff were around her, but then she understood why. "I remember still being in shock from the anesthetic as they dragged me into the room and excited hospital staff pushing photos in front of me," Keely said, adding that she couldn't believe she was carrying so much weight. After her cyst, which was a third of her weight, was removed, Keely began to realize the impact it was having on her life. "I lost sight of how difficult the simple things, like driving a car or going upstairs, had become," Keely said. "Losing my lump gave me life." Doctors were taken aback by the sheer size of the cyst, which turned out to be a medical miracle. When Keely woke up after her operation, she too couldn't believe the sight of the medical stranger living in her. Today, Keely now has a 12-inch scar stretching from her breastbone to her pelvis. Shortly after the operation, she would get up and walk, delighted to start her new life without a block, even if it brought some new changes. For example, following the operation, Keely lost her right ovary. Nevertheless, the doctor informed her that she could still have children if she wished. Although she was never pregnant, Keely, at 28, already had stretch marks from her surgery. No matter how severe the stretch marks were, Keely knew she'd rather have them than a 60-pound belly mass. When Keely's family came to see her, they were surprised to see her so thin. "The shock on my family's faces said it all. I was literally half the woman I was getting off.